In other local news, bicycles and kick scooters will be banned from footpaths that are next to cycling lanes from the fourth quarter of this year. They must stick to the cycling lane instead. Now, the Land Transport Authority says this is to keep paths safer for all, especially for seniors and young children. Charlotte Lim with more.
There are currently more than 200 kilometers of cycling lanes that are right next to footpaths. This is roughly a third of all cycling paths and park connectors across the island that are shared by users of all devices. Transport Minister Chee Hong Tat says the clearer distinction of their usage comes as the number of such adjacent paths has grown.
Actually, the number of the active mobility accidents on footpaths have actually been coming down since 2019. In 2019, we had about 303 cases. We had 303 cases. Last year, in 2023, this came down to 70 plus cases. So this not because the paths have become more dangerous, but the reason why we are pushing this out now, instead of leaving it as a guideline and a recommended practice, we're going to make it a requirement.
The different paths will be clearly labelled with logos and text. Though marked pedestrians only, personal mobility aids will also be allowed to use the path. These electric wheelchairs and mobility scooters have a speed limit of 6 kilometers per hour, which is similar to a brisk walk. The Active Mobility Advisory Panel says the greater separation of paths is for everyone's safety.
I'll put it this way, we are not targeting anybody. We are targeting responsible users of all these devices. That's all. At the end of the day, even as a pedestrian, right, I can say we are also targeting them because you have to be responsible yourself. You are also part of the path user. So I think when we say targeting, it's wrong to state that. Right? We want to make sure that everybody is safe on their respective path.
Enforcement will only begin next July to give path users time to adjust. Singapore plans to build 1,300 kilometers of cycling paths by 2030.
Mr. Koh Juay Meng joins me now in the studio. He is a member of the Active Mobility Advisory Panel and also chairman of RSVP Singapore, which organizes senior volunteers. Mr. Koh, welcome to the studio. Now, the move to have pedestrian-only footpaths, how will it improve the safety of pedestrians, particularly the seniors, young children, and other vulnerable people?
Well, today, path users are actually encouraged to stick to their respective path. And this will ensure that, there's compliance with the, we call the Active Mobility Act. Important thing is that for all these paths to be safe, everyone has a responsibility, right? Including, the cyclists, the active mobility user, and also the pedestrian themselves. So I think this is very important.
Okay, but why is this being rolled out now? As we understand, active mobility accidents, they have been declining since 2019, so that's looking very healthy.
Well, I think we look at it from a different perspective. Although it's been declining, but safety is the utmost concern for path users, especially the seniors, since you mentioned it. Seniors are slower to react and so on. So what they want is the assurance when I walk on the path, I'm safe and I'm not being compromised by other path users.
So they want to feel assured and safe. But we also know that those who are using motorized scooters, they will also be able to use these pedestrian-only footpaths.
Yes.
Some might consider this dangerous. What would you say to that?
Well, I think it's a personal thing. Right? If you consider it dangerous, then you have to be more careful yourself. When you're talking of dangerous, you're talking about the path user, the pedestrians, and so on. As long as it sticks to the rules, the compliance, you should be okay. Right? I think we have to have faith in ourselves.
Okay. You were also talking about being responsible on the road earlier in the story. Just last month, LTA actually caught people riding non-compliant e-scooters and e-bicycles and using the wrong paths. Now, this is despite years of regulations for such devices. With bicycles and kick scooters now to be banned from pedestrian-only footpaths, what do you think needs to be done to change the habits of those riders?
I think we have been educating, I would say, the users for all this path and also the roads when they go on the roads. But the fact is, education sometimes is not enough to deter some of these people from, doing otherwise. So the only thing is to keep on doing it, reminding them. And I think the best thing to tell them is that safety is our utmost concern. Right? It's not only your safety. All the users of the path, the roads, are all concerned. Right?
And at the end of the day, we want to make our streets safer. We want to provide more senior-friendly amenities for our elderly.
Sure.
What more do you think needs to be done to make footpaths safer for our aging population?
I think as far as senior is concerned, the first thing they want to go on the road or on the path, let's say, for example, is it safe or not? Right? And if something happened, right, am I going to be okay? I'm going to be assured and so on. So the part on the senior is that it's not only education, it's the action that you take. So as long as the rest of the path user are in compliance, right, the senior will feel safer to go on those paths. Especially, senior, you need to do brisk walk and all that. You cannot expect them to walk at home. Right? So they have to go on the path. They have to do their chores.
Right, and we're trying to get them to come up as well to be more active.
Yes.
We know that enforcement will kick in from July next year.
That's right.
But aside to the physical markings that will be printed on the footpaths, what will be done to help the seniors and vulnerable adjust to these new rules?
Well, I think this is something that it goes both ways. Right? The senior themselves have to feel comfortable, have to be assured. And on the other part, the other path user have to take responsibility that when they go on the path, when there are seniors around, especially for today, we don't have to talk about 1 year later before the thing kicks in. They have to be responsible people. They have to be responsible active mobility user, cyclists, and so on. Not only you're at risk, you're putting other people at risk. So what are you going to do? I think the harmony itself will come in once this, regulates among them.
In trying to create that harmony, Mr. Koh, how can we encourage seniors to go out and use these park connectors more often, to get around and lead a more active lifestyle? Because we're talking about taking actions, and being more responsible and asking them, creating all these safer amenities for them. But how do we encourage them to actually come out to make use of these amenities that are made for them?
I think a lot of this have to do with the mindset.
Okay.
They have to have a mindset change, right? Maybe the family themselves, their friends, their peers, right? They could encourage one another that it's safe to go along. I think that's very important. The encouragement from their peers, from their family and all that to go out and assure them that this is safe. But of course, it's not only the family and their peers and their friends, right? The other users got to assure them that it's safe. I think that's very important. Seniors are such that, once they are bitten, they won't do it again. They say, I'm not going back there.
Right.
Don't try me, because maybe there's only one try left.
Okay, Mr. Koh, thank you very much for coming in. That was Mr. Koh Juay Meng from RSVP Singapore, the organization of senior volunteers.